One way to find the general form is to first of all come up with one of the other two forms and then rearrange it into the general form. So that's what we're going to do first. So I've got a point here at -3, +2, +7, +7. Okay, so there's my line. I'm going to find my slope first. Okay, so my rise is going to be +5. My run looks like it's going to be +10. Okay, so again, make sure you subtract in the right orientation. So my slope works out to be 5/10 or +1/2. So my equation then is y equals 1/2 x, and I'm going to use my point slope form. Okay, so there's my x1, y1, that's our fixed or known point on the graph, so we know we could use either A or B. And I'm going to rearrange this into my general form. So I'm going to first of all multiply out my brackets. Since I'm going to add 7/2 to 7, I need to make it a common denominator. And so I end up with y equals 1/2 x plus 7/2. The general form then involves getting rid of the fraction. 2y equals x plus 7. We want to make it equal to 0. So we're going to subtract 2y from both sides. We want to keep the coefficient on x positive, so it becomes x minus 2y plus 7. So there's my general form. I can identify my a is 1, b is -2, c is +7. Okay, so here we have x-intercepts at 6. So 3, 6. My y-intercept is at 8. Okay, here. So it looks like my slope is going down in this direction. Again, I want to find my slope. Okay, so I know that my slope is going down 8, to the right 6. Okay, so my slope value, okay, is, remember, it's y on top, x on bottom, and my slope works out to be simplified to -4/3. I want to kind of mention something about this, in that my slope here seems to be reflected in my intercept values. Okay, and we're going to take a look, see if they show up in our general form. So I'm going to write this with my y-intercept form because I know my y-intercept here. I can see the y-intercept. The y-intercept is right there at +8. I'm going to go +8. Okay, so that my y-intercept's right there. I'm going to get rid of my fraction. So I get 3y equals -4x plus 24. Make sure we multiply out that every term. I want to make it equal to 0. So since my x is negative on this side, I'm going to add it to the other side. So I end up with 4x plus 3y. I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides. And I end up with 0 on the right hand side. So there's my general form. And notice that the coefficients on x and y relate to the slope. Okay, the signs aren't quite the same, but we know that my rise is 4, but the rise ends up on the x. My run is 3, my run ends up on the y, so kind of backwards. But we can start looking at that relationship. And there is a relationship with the coefficients of a, b, and c. In fact, for the slope, the coefficients are going to relate to a and b. So first of all, let's write the line, the slope of the line. The slope of the line was -4/3. And when we look at the slope always works out to be the opposite of A over B. And that's a generalization, and that always works. In the general form, we can actually work out the slope by the ratio of A and B. Now it's backwards, so we have to remember which way it goes. So normally it's rise over, well, it is rise over run, but the rise part of it shows up on the X, and the run actually shows up on the Y. So the y-intercept then involves the c. Because if I take a look, if I solve for y, the constant value relates to the y-intercept. So if I move the 24 to this side to get the opposite sign, c, so I end up with negative c. I'm going to write my y-intercept b is equal to negative c. And then I divide by the coefficient on y, which is b. So we can generalize like this. So if I take a look at this one, my y-intercept is 8. If I take negative 24 divided by 3, so negative c divided by b is going to give me the correct y-intercept of 8. And just to show that, it's going to be negative 24 divided by b, which is 3, gives me my y-intercept of 8.